Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Rashmita, and I am the event planner for Microsoft Reactor India. This session will run over the next 60 minutes, including Q&A. But before we begin today's session, please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat section will be open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. So please feel free to drop all your questions in the chat section. I would now like to welcome Jigar, our speaker for today's session. I think he's already joined our stream. So without any further delay, I would request Jigar to start today's session. Jigar, can you please share your PPT so that I can bring up on it for the screen?
Uh, yeah, sure. My screen is shared. Like, is it
Yeah,
visible to you? Okay.
yes. Now I can see it, Jigar. Yes.
Okay, sure.
Okay, the stage is all yours, Jigar. I'll be at the backstage. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey guys, hello everyone. Welcome to this session. So let me introduce myself quickly, and then we can get started with the without any further ado, deploying Azure AI services in containers. So myself, Jigar Pathak, working in industry almost like now 20 plus years. So I'm Microsoft certified trainer, cloud solution architect, played a role, and worked on various different solutions when it comes to cloud. So today we will be discussing on deploying Azure AI services in containers. So nowadays, like a lot of industries moving into AI technology, and one of the challenges basically to host the AI solutions in terms of cloud. The problem statement is like the enterprises wanted to host their particular like the data and everything, which is like residing probably on premise, or sometimes like the data might be hosted somewhere in their secure network or secure environment. So enterprises wanted to host particular AI solutions within their particular containerized runtime environment, and then maybe probably tweak and manage and connect and work with that particular services. So what we're gonna do, we will deep dive into it. We will understand that how and what kind of like things are available. I'll show you a quick demo as well, where we're gonna take a look at it, how you can host your particular AI services in terms of containerized environment. So we will take a look at it. Meanwhile, I'll just like pause my video so that we can focus only on content and we can go through with things which is required. And in case anything you need it, probably you are feel free to ask the questions or queries, whatever you have. Yeah. So I'll just pause my video and then we'll jump onto the content and we'll focus on the learning side of activities what we have. So here basically I'll take you through that what all the options we are planning to cover up in this. So we will be discussing about Azure AI capabilities, what all the different capabilities, what we get it when it comes to Azure perspective, list of Azure AI services, what basically available in the form of containerized approach, and that is something we can host it somewhere. The Azure AI service landscape. So when being an enterprise, when you are planning to start working towards AI technology stack, then what are the options available, how you can develop, what you can develop, and what are the tool chains probably we are supposed to use it. And definitely, I mean, the hosting Azure AI services in containers. So what all the containerized approach we get it and how we can host them so that you can basically like leverage the containerized approach, and then you can have your AI services deployed somewhere in your nearby locations. And last but not least, the demo, and post that we can have Q&A. You guys are feel free to ask queries or questions, whatever you have, and post it into the chat box, and then we'll take those questions and then we will proceed further accordingly. Yeah. So to begin with, first of all, understanding AI capabilities. Now, in real-time scenario, when we are expecting some particular solutions to be hosted, so we are expecting a particular hosting our AI services, and basically the AI environment. Just give me a second. AI services basically help you out in terms of covering different scenarios or different options what we are like looking at it. So the if it is on-premise data center, the expectation is that we are looking for some infrastructure which basically help you out in terms of up and running your particular AI components or AI technology stack into the place. So probably you can host them either in cloud or it can be a hybrid scenario. uh, we all know that to power your particular AI, definitely you need some particular data in place, right? So nowadays, like if you see like Copilot or any particular AI modules, we are providing or we are sourcing some sort of data back into the system, and that data basically we are using it for our particular further decision making or any other particular activities what we are following. In that case, that works. So we have to have data in place. Machine learning basically add a particular capabilities in terms of predictive or real-time analysis activities in between, and then probably you can have some particular decision making on top of it. So at high level, these are four categories what we are expecting in terms of AI capabilities or AI solutions nowadays. If you see, like a visual perception, speech, and NLP analysis, decision making, or text analysis and conversation. So these are some of the core categories what we are expecting to be provided or supported from the AI perspective. And on top of it, the responsible AI is something one of the core layer, which is something every enterprises or industry is supposed to take care of it, and they are supposed to manage or maybe take care of these guidelines during their particular AI related development or solutions what they are planning to provide. So fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, transparency, inclusiveness, accountability, and all. So these are some of the core pillar, or maybe you can say a particular responsible AI guideline which we are supposed to follow and build our solutions on top of it, so that you can have a complete end-to-end solution up and running from the AI perspective, and you can have a kind of full-fledged like enterprise grade solution up and running with the help of Azure AI services. Now, here, when we are considering this, we are expecting a particular list of services or capabilities covered or provided by Azure. So here, Azure is offering in all four categories. We have different set of services available, and these services we can use it for different purpose. Say, for example, if you consider vision, speech, language, and generative AI, so there are different use cases probably you can address. Say, let's imagine, for example, we have hospital industry, and there are a lot of handwritten documents are there, right? So probably you can consider that the doctor reports or the whatever the medical transcript of the operations or a lot of informations are getting generated. Now these informations like written as in hand paper, and we are expecting to make it digitize and probably wanted to do some particular analysis or some particular informations to be captured for the future forecasts and other particular information. Then we are expecting something towards OCR or kind of object detections or OCR related activities and mechanism. So it will provide you kind of options where you can visualize those informations as a part of it. Speech recognitions. So nowadays, like a lot of standard examples, what we see, right? Like Cortana, Siri, or Google speech to text or text to speech kind of examples are there in market. So if you are planning to use any particular kind of mechanism, then there are particular AI solutions are there. Language specific. So nowadays, like we are looking for, or companies are looking for particular knowledge base where they wanted to search a particular certain type of informations or solutions in place, and their primary objective is basically to get some particular answers, right? So for example, I have my particular retail stores, and customers were looking for some particular product informations, and at the same time they were looking for some product recommendation as well. Now, if nowadays we see almost in all retail stores as well, where you must have observed that when you are searching for mobile or any particular product, so there will be some recommendations are there. So that search response, basically, if we are planning to embed into our particular applications, then we wanted to search from our existing knowledge base, or the informations what we have. So we wanted to collect and produce some informations out of it. Or generative AI is like one of the classic example, like Microsoft image generations, where you type it out your descriptions and then you get some particular nice image generative informations as in response, right? Or GitHub Copilot is also one of the recommendation, where you search for some particular code recommendation and then you get some particular like 10 different type of response and like output on top of it. So these are some of the AI landscape or services what we get it in terms of Azure point of view. Now, along with this, we also need to understand that what is the landscape in terms of developing solutions on top of the Azure. What all the layers probably involves during this particular activity. So here, if you consider Azure AI service landscape, there are, so the first slide which I talked about in terms of infra point of view. So we are expecting some solutions to be hosted, and these solutions supposed to be hosted somewhere in on-premise data center, or probably it will be hosted somewhere in particular cloud environment as well. So we are expecting compute, containerized network storage, IAM or security related layers to be provided or supported via, if it is on-premise, then you are supposed to take care of it. And if it is hosted somewhere in Azure, then we are supposed to configure those services with the help of some of those Azure specific services. So the hosting environment, what we are looking at it somewhere in Azure. The second layer more focus on the data front, where from where are data going to ingested in for my particular AI services, right? So in that particular case, the data platform services, the customized apps, you may have data incoming from on-premise data center, cloud-driven environment, or probably you may have some of the existing data store from where you will be able to produce this particular information, and then it will help you out in terms of capturing those information somewhere in cloud. So we can provide those details, we can like host that specific data related informations in place, and then probably we will be able to go ahead with those activity the way it is expected. So here we can plan the data incoming. Now, this data can be integrated with some of the, I can say, data platform ecosystem, where probably Microsoft Fabric, Dataverse, which is more supporting with low code, no code scenario, or one lake service where you can have a centralized data managed. And probably from the governance point of view, you can use Microsoft Purview, which helps you to take care of your particular governance side of activity and make sure that you can have a better fully managed platform in terms of data governance and all. So the data is basically at core in terms of AI. On top of that, the third layer would be machine learning, where you can utilize Azure Machine Learning Studio, and you can prepare your particular data with all the possible flows what you are looking at it. You can come up with your own custom data model, or probably you can use some of the predefined data model, and then you can massage your data and make it ready for the further usage what we are like looking at it. So that is something maybe we can plan manage in terms of machine learning point of view. And last but not least, we can leverage all those particular AI capabilities in our particular solutions, where we can host that particular services from the Azure AI multi AI service account, and you can host all possible services, or individual AI services also you can go for. You can also leverage the capabilities of Azure OpenAI. You can come up with certain particular LLM models or DALL-E models, or there are various different models are supported, which probably you can interact with those particular models with the top layer in terms of developing your own custom solutions, where you can integrate your particular AI solutions or AI capabilities to Power Platform or Microsoft Copilot Studios or Azure AI Foundry Studios and all. And other than that, like various options are available where you can plan and manage, and you can develop your own particular custom solutions with your Visual Studio Code, or probably any of your particular choice of your like IDE. You can work with it, and then that is something it will help you out in terms of interacting with those particular components. So these are some of the options available where you can plan and manage and work with certain type of components, and that way at least you will be able to build and host your particular services on top of it. So this is your overall, you can say, Azure AI service landscape, what we are considering. Say, for example, if I'm playing a role of developer and my objective is basically to deliver these solutions on top of these AI capabilities, then these are some of the options probably we can look into that. And at least you will be able to plan and manage and work with your particular end-to-end solution development and hosting them into the respective environment what we are like looking at it. So Azure AI service landscape basically provides you a kind of approach where you can plan and manage and work with kind of options or solutions what we are like looking at it, and then accordingly you will be able to work with these particular solutions what we are like looking at it. So objective is like pretty much clear where you are planning to design and build your particular solutions on top of it. So these are some of the approach, or these are some of the options what we can take care of it, and then accordingly you will be able to plan and manage and work with this particular services what we are like looking at it, right? So from the cloud perspective, Azure is offering you particular all possible features where you can build and host your particular AI related capabilities or services the way we are like looking at it. Then in that particular case, you will be able to plan and manage and work with some of the solutions or some of the activities the way we are like planning to host them, right? So this is something probably a high level Azure AI service landscape, probably what we can use it in terms of building and hosting your particular solutions. Now, when it comes to a particular containerized approach, right? So our primary objective is basically to host our particular AI services and take care of that particular capabilities in somewhere in cloud, and we are looking for so this particular solutions to be up and running, right? So one of the problem statement what we need to consider, so AI service like majorly hosted somewhere in Azure. So if I'm considering Azure portal, so here we have a complete list of services available. So if I go to my AI capabilities and all, so AI services basically hosted somewhere in Azure, right? So their particular infrastructure and other particular scalabilities and other required components, basically Microsoft take care of it, because that's where this is something available in the form of managed services. So we just get that particular managed service available, and then you are supposed to keep running those services. The underlying infrastructure, the runtime, the scalability, the availability, everything will be addressed by the Microsoft, and then it will be managed by the Azure, and then it will help you out accessing those services. So you are more focused on the core part, and then that way at least you can connect and interact with those services, right? So there are some of the marketplace available from where you can pick up your choice of service and then you can host it. Now, here in many cases, enterprises wanted that control over their service infrastructure and the data exchange between the services. So that is what basically expected from the enterprises. So, so here to enable such use case, uh, the hosting part of the AI services is something enterprises looking for to host them somewhere in their local environment, or they wanted to connect and interact with the services with the choice of their environment. So in that case, you can use either Azure provided containerized approach, or probably you can host them in your local Docker servers, and it can be basically help you out in terms of connecting and interacting with this particular services, and then you can utilize your Docker desktop engine, or you can package an Azure AI service API, and then probably you can utilize that particular services the way it is expected. So here, what will be the workaround? What should be the solution probably we can expect so that we will be able to address that particular problem statement, and then we can have particular solution to be up and running in that particular scenario. So here, one of the objective is basically to have hosting Azure AI services in containers. So here, if you consider, like, there are three particular main bullet point I have highlighted. Let me little bit resize so that you can have clear view. So hosting Azure AI services. So Azure AI service provides like several benefits in terms of different type of Docker container images are available, and that basically let you deploy your particular sample API on top of it, and that way at least you can host and up and running with your particular AI services on top of that. So you can use your particular containerized approach, and containerize basically it's one of the lightweight solution which help you you can host your particular AI services. It will be available in Azure, it will be available in on-premise, and you can use this container so that you can get the flexibility to bring your Azure AI capabilities closer to your data for compliance, security, and other operational reasons point of view. And that way, at least you can support your particular runtime on top of it. So the advantage what you get is that so definitely, I mean, you can have your immutable infrastructure. Probably you can, your DevOps team basically can leverage the consistency and reliable set of system and parameter configurations on top of it. They can simply go ahead with that particular options, and then containers provide the flexibility to work with that particular environment, and then you can avoid any configuration drift, and then you can host your particular solutions. You can have a better control over your particular data. So these AI services can basically essentially you can send the data to cloud and probably the AI service APIs, and then it will help you out in terms of interacting with those information in the form of hybrid environment where you can have across data, you can have management, identity, and security also to be covered up on top of it, and you can like have a better control over the like updates and portability of a particular solution what you are looking at it. So the architecture what you see currently, this particular reference architecture, basically there are three elements to it. So we are creating a particular containers, right? So containers basically help you out in terms of hosting your particular solutions on top of it. Of course, I mean, if you are new to container, then definitely you can refer to the learn module. So that will be shared during or post this particular session as well, or you must have seen the reference link of that particular learn module as well. And I encourage everybody to refer to that Microsoft learn module to view those informations. And if you're new to Docker containers and all, so there are a lot of getting started tutorials and informations are there which basically help you out to quickly get started with containerized approach, and then that way at least you can get familiar with things. So here, if you see, there are three elements in this particular solution. First, we are expecting container registry. Second, we are expecting the container runtime. Being a developers, basically you are expecting that container runtimes. And the third element is basically your Azure AI services, where we can leverage the Azure AI module, and that is something deployed or connected and accessed into the system. So starting with first option, that container images. Okay. So here we are looking for some predefined Docker container images provided by Azure, which we can leverage and host it in our particular container runtime. So there are some of the predefined container images are available. So this is like a sample pathway I have given, like mcr.microsoft.com/cognitive services/AI services, and the specific AI module which we are like looking at it. So here I'm highlighting that if I'm planning to look for some sentiment analysis to be done regarding what people are talking about my product or my services and all that. So I'm looking for sentiment Docker image, which is something available with this pathway where Microsoft.com/Azure Cognitive Services/ text analytics and sentiment API available or Docker image available with the latest tag. So there are different type of container images are there. So we have decision making images available, decision containers, language containers, speech containers, vision containers. So there are set of containers available, and there are like a variety of container images what we get it in place, and these container images basically you can use it for the further access, or maybe you can say the further activity point of view, you will be able to work with that. So containerized in AI services, so we can have decision containers where you can get anomaly detectors, right? So for example, if you are having some particular solutions where you want to you can enable this particular API, and then it will help you out to monitor and detect anomalies, abnormal anomalies, and in the series of data coming from machine learnings. You can have language containers. So majorly, if you are looking for use case where we want to address like Lewis language services, or probably like as I said, like sentiment or key phrase detections and all that stuff, or maybe there are like some sort of summarization you are looking for. So there are like huge documentation and you wanted to summarize that document in few words, then probably you can use this particular language containers as well. If you're looking for speech to text or text to speech, so there is a speech containers available. So that way, at least you can customize like your speech to text or text to speech mechanisms, or you can have NLP like neural text to speech, or kind of mechanism when you are looking at it. So there are predefined container images available, right? So these are some of the container images we can refer to it. You can also have vision containers. So the scenario which I gave, like let's say for example, the OCR techniques, right? So like I have medical transcripts, I have some particular handwritten documents, and those documents are available in the form of JPEG, PNG, a bitmap file, PDF, or TIFF file, and all. And I'm looking for some particular image to text particular translations and informations to be rendered. Then in that particular case you can have this particular speech containers vision containers available, and that will help you out in terms of rendering those informations what we have. Now there are some of the prerequisite to host this particular environment, right? So here, to host my particular container environment, coming back to this, so there are a couple of services what we needed. First, if you are planning to host this particular solution somewhere in container, probably you can come up with your existing Docker engine. That is one way to host your particular container images on top of it, and it can be hosted somewhere on Mac, Linux, Windows. All three particular OSs are supporting the Docker runtime. So if you wanted to host and run anything on top of it, you will be able to go ahead with Docker engine. Over and above, if I wanted to like host them somewhere in Azure with some of the preferred services, then probably you can go ahead with Azure container instance, and also you can consider Azure Kubernetes services as well. So some of these particular, so these are something probably you can say Azure specific services what you can consider, whereas Docker Engine probably you can host it somewhere on premise, and then you will be able to work with that, right? So here in this particular scenario, you will be able to interacting with Microsoft Container Registry, and it will help you out in terms of getting access towards this particular container images. And with the help of these particular container images, you will be able to work with this particular resources the way it is expected. So the objective is like pretty much clear that how you gonna build and host your particular services on top of it. So the second layer is basically up and running with your particular container runtime. Third layer is basically the Azure AI services. So you need to configure your particular container, and this configuration requires some of the predefined activity or options. So you are supposed to connect and interact with Azure AI services. So you need couple of informations for the billing purpose. So you need API key for the billing purpose, like which particular Azure Cognitive Services you are trying to consume using an API via that Docker hosting runtime, so that you need that particular API key for the billing purpose. You need endpoint URI, which is provided by Azure AI Services. And the third is basically EULA. That is something more about license point of view, so that it will basically help you out in terms of connecting and accessing that license for the container, so that you can accept that particular term and conditions provided by the Microsoft, so that which I mentioned about that inclusiveness and responsible AI utilization related activities. So in that case, you will be able to get your particular terms accepted, and then you can have access towards the container, and that way at least you can build and host your particular services up and running inside that. So API, you need API key, you need billing endpoint URI for the billing purpose you need, and ULA or EULA, which is more about like your license term acceptance, and then accordingly you will be able to connect and interact with those particular activities or services. Now, to work with this particular activity, so here there is a quick demo available on this particular front. So this demo is like same exactly the solution which I just now described. Probably we can implement that, and it will help you out in terms of up and running with that particular activity. Now there are two way to work with this particular demo. Okay, there is a while following up this particular learn module, I will encourage all of you guys to take a look at it. This is like same module, and the exercise also included under that particular module. So if you are not having any Azure subscription in place, there is an option available, or I mean it will definitely ask your particular credentials. So there is some prerequisite to provision this particular sandbox environment, and this sandbox environment allows you to connect and interact with your services. So I did both the options. Like if you are going ahead with this sandbox environment, then there might be a particular account verification activities required, and you will be able to like verify particular as an user, and after that it will give you access towards the services. Now sometimes if you click on the start lab, so Microsoft basically launched the particular complete runtime environment for you. This is like fully managed lab. So if you are using this particular learn module, the advantage is that you will get some particular guided instructions, and then you can simply like follow these particular activity in step by step approach, and then you will be able to achieve this particular solution up and running, right? So it has some particular time frame to use this lab, like probably 30 minutes or so, like depending on the lab complexity and all. So this will help you out in terms of exploring this particular hands-on activity, and you will be able to use this particular solution to be up and running in that particular case. So in this particular hosted environment, what we are planning to do, being a developers, you can focus on your code base, and you will be able to host and up and running with your particular services. So there is some particular UI available. So I'll just quickly take you through with the UI what you gonna get it. So here you get the particular virtual machine installed with some of the tool chains, required tool chains and everything. Here you need to provide the credentials. So let's say, for example, here is the password available. So if you click on this T button, it will type it out password also. So this is like a complete guided environment. You get it, and it will help you out in terms of connecting and interacting with your services. So the advantage is that we will get the required tool chain, which is you are supposed to use during this particular hands-on. So you don't need to set up anything on your local machine. So we are expecting this Visual Studio Code to be available. So I'll just like open and run as admin. Okay. And under this particular Visual Studio code, we are supposed to clone our particular code repository. So there are some of the sample code or some references available, so that if you are planning to work with the any of the hands-on activity, or maybe you can say if you are planning to implement anything as such, then you will be able to go through with this particular option, and it will basically allow you to operationally work and configure things, and then maybe you will be able to host your particular resources the way it is expected. So here in this particular Visual Studio Code, I'll simply go ahead with command palette, and I'll search for git clone. Okay. And here under this particular git clone, we are supposed to go ahead with this particular predefined endpoint where we can get access to the AI services. So I'll press enter. It will ask you to clone this particular code somewhere in local repository. So I'll put it somewhere in my C drive. Let's say I'll create new folder and say AI demo, and will select this particular folder as my local code repository. So my code is going to replicate under this. So here the advantage is that you will get sample code available, and the one good thing is like people who all are planning to prepare for AI engineering certification as well, then this particular module will also help you out in terms of preparing for your certification pathway as well. So here we have the particular options available, and out of this we are going to use this particular module as an user container. Okay. So we have this option. What we are planning to do, open the Azure portal in this case, and we are planning to connect with our portal.azure.com, and we need a particular subscription in place. Okay. So here, let me connect with my portal.azure.com. Now, if you don't want to use this particular sandbox environment, because sometimes what will happen if you like try it out multi-time, so sometimes your number of you can say access or operations may get exhaust. So in that particular case, you are supposed to use that particular activity, or maybe you are supposed to go through with that particular option, and you might have to use your own personal account as well. So here I'm using my particular subscription. So here I'll connect with my portal.azure.com, and it will allow me to create and work with my services what I am looking at it. Okay. So I'll be getting my particular multi-service account to be created with the Azure specific AI services, and then it will allow me to connect and interact with the resources. Now, it may be possible sometimes this lab internet connection is little bit slow, so you may face some particular challenges in that particular case. But yeah, I mean, right now we are just like having this particular solutions or services may get created, and post that we will be able to work with this particular activity. So once this particular environment gets loaded, okay, so here I will search for Azure AI services. So from the global search box you will be looking for Azure AI services with the multi-service account. Or let me do one thing for safer side. I did this as well. Let me provision this somewhere in my portal, and then we will access it. So here I think the internet is a bit faster. So here I'll be creating Azure AI service multi-service account. I'll click on create, and let's say AI demo -rg. I'll create my services. East US would be the region, and the name of the service, it can be anything. Now you just have to be careful while provisioning certain AI services, because right now Microsoft is appending some of the capabilities. So few services may support in certain regions, few services may not work in some other regions. So you just have to look at it, and then probably you will be able to provision it. So here I'll provide my AI service con demo, that's my service name, and the pricing tier I'll keep it standard. You will get two pricing tier, free and standard. If free is not available, then definitely you can go ahead with standard and agree to that responsible AI terms and conditions. And there are other particular elements associated to this, like if you want to secure this particular AI service with your private network, then probably you will be able to apply towards that. That is one way to go for it. Or second option is if you are planning to keep it somewhere in Azure only hosted, and then you wanted to work with that particular services, then in that case also you will be able to identify that particular resource, and then accordingly you will be able to work with that. So we have the options, or maybe you can say we have the different scenarios and approach available, where we can simply plan and manage and interact with that services what we are like looking at it, right? So that's where you may simply pick up and work with that particular services, and then accordingly it will help you out in terms of provisioning and working with this resources what we are looking at it. Yeah. So here I'll keep it as it is and say next. Identity access management will leave it as it is, and say next, and then say review and create. So this will basically provision the services what we are like looking at it in our environment. So here I'll click on create. So this will provision my AI services, which I can use it for my further activity, or maybe you can say further hands-on point of view. We are planning to use them. So let this service gets created. And once this particular service is up and running, okay, now what we need to do, so here we are planning to run the containerized instance. So in the same environment, I will be searching for container instances. And here I'll click on create container instance. I'll select my existing resource group only, the container instance name. So I'll say AI con demo. That's my container name, instance name. East US availability zone as of now will keep it none standard. And container registry is something what we need to pick up. So here I'll say like there are, if you are having your own container registry, you can pick it up from here, or else you will be able to go ahead and pick up your particular container registry from the different locations what we are like looking at it. So we have the options where you can pick and choose your container registry. So there is a list of registries available or provided by Microsoft. So here if you see, there is a like list of container registries provided by Microsoft. They are hosted somewhere with the Microsoft Azure, their artifact registry, from where we can pick up and access those particular container registry what we are like looking at it. So you will be able to connect and interact with those Azure cognitive registries whatever we have. So here if you observe, Microsoft artifact registries are there, and there are list of registries available which you can use it for your development, and this will become your base image, and these particular base image you can use it for your particular future development activities what we are like looking at it. So there are some of the categories available. Based on that particular categories, you can pick up your particular choice of the image, and that image you can use it for your future deployment of future service related activities, and then accordingly you will be able to work with that, right? So it's more about like selecting the right image, and that image probably you can use it for your future activity what we are looking at it. Now looking at my diagram, we are planning to use this sentiment latest image. Okay, so here if I go and check with that other registry, right? So here I have to select other registry, public registry, and there is a public registry available with the latest image. So it's my Microsoft.com/Azure Cognitive Services Text Analytics and sentiment dot colon latest. And I'll keep it like Linux based environment. Now here you might have to change the size and configuration of machine, right? Because it requires a little bit good capacity to run your particular container image. So instead of 1.5 GB like RAM, I'll keep it like 8. Okay. And if your container image required some GPU capabilities also, probably you can enable that, right? So as of now, I'll leave it as it is. And let me like increase little bit 2 cores and 8 GB RAM and say okay, so that it will create my particular container instance. Now there are a couple of important configurations we are supposed to take care when it comes to further activity. Okay. So under networking tab, instead of port number 80, we will be using port number 5000, so that I will expose my particular AI services using container, and the port number would be 500, sorry, 5000. So that would be the standard port number I will give it, and the DNS label. So I'll say AI con demo. That's my particular DNS name I wanted to give. Okay. And post that, we will get into the monitoring. I'll leave it default workspace if you want, or else you can disable that as well. Like if you don't want any monitoring as of now, you can disable it. Okay. And from the advanced section to perspective, so in advance here we have to update some of the information carefully. Okay. So what all the informations we are supposed to use it carefully. So I'll just duplicate this browser window tab, and this information I would like to use it for my container, the AI services what we have captured, or the provision. So those services we are supposed to use it for our further activity. So I'll go back to my resource group. Here is my AI service, and we are supposed to capture some informations coming from the keys and all. So I'll keep it like a key and endpoint. So what are the things we are supposed to update over here? Okay. So first is, if you wanted to pass this particular value as a parameter, these are my some of the environment variable. So if you want to make it secure variable, then you can say mark as a secure yes. What is the variable name? I'll say API key. And what should be the value over here? So here you have the API key available provided by AI services. So I'll paste that. So your value comes in this dotted confirmation, right? So that's where you can have value. Here it's my billing section. So I'll keep it like billing, and we are supposed to provide endpoint URI. So that endpoint URI also you can capture it from the service. So you can copy this URI, and that URI goes over here. Okay. And last but not least, I'll say EULA, that will be not secure, and I will say accept. This is like term or license what we are accepting, and rest of the values or rest of the informations will leave it as it is, and say tag and review and create. So this configuration is very much important. Without this, you will not be able to provision this particular AI services within your on-premise also, or if you're planning to host it somewhere in Azure, none of the options are available, or maybe you will not be able to host them, and it will help you out in terms of up and running with this particular activity what we are looking at it. So here we can have those options. Here we can configure and host this particular environment, and it will help you out in terms of up and running with this particular services. So I'll click on create. So now almost all required environment is ready for me. I have my container instance up and running. I have my AI container services configured and linked with my resources, whatever I'm expecting. So things are like readily available. So let this service gets up and running. And here, if I'm talking about this lab environment, okay. So here also, if I see my resource group, so if I connect with my environment, then I'll get my particular resource group access over here as well, because the services got created. It's just the access we need to interact or connect with it, right? Now here it's the same steps what I explained. Now whatever configuration I did it with container instance, if you have your local Docker runtime environment available in place, then you will be able to run this particular Docker runtime command, and it is the same activity we are doing it, like setting up the port, memory 8 GB, CPU, one course, the container image, fetching it from that location, and then you are accepting your billing and endpoint. So here you need to append your billing and endpoint URI and API key, and it will perform the same exact activity what we were like looking at it. Okay. And last but not least, there is a particular curl command which basically available in your code repository. There is a test option. If you can use this thing, Postman or something, then there is a particular calling this particular service. So there is a curl command you will be able to post your ACI fully qualified domain name. So whatever the name gets generated for this container instance, okay. Now what we need to call here, we are supposed to call this IP address, or else I can use this fully qualified domain name. Any one of them is fine. So I'll copy this IP name, sorry, number, and I paste it over here. Okay. So this is like IP referring to the port number, text analytics, sentiment AI service, and it will just send some text like some information like the performance was amazing, the sound could have been clear, the food and service were unacceptable, while the host was nice, the waiter was rude, and food was cold. So these are some of the feedback given, and this feedback probably I just wanted to render in place. Then how this thing going to be work out, or what kind of options probably we need to capture. So what it does, it will allow you to perform some of the activity, or maybe you can say perform some of the runtime options, right? So maybe we are supposed to set the path, okay, set the path of this particular local directory, and then we are supposed to run this res test cmd. So what it does, it will make a call to that AI service. It will go through with this post response, right? Your request, it will post the particular text, and if all good, because right now if you see this one is something, yeah, this is what the response I got it. So this response is basically the output of the API, what we are running in terms of REST API. So here is the response. If I just copy this response, and I'll show you somewhere in Notepad. So this will be a complete response for your text analysis, like what is the sentence meaning, the confidence, the whether it's positive, neutral, negative. So it will give you a kind of information like the performance was amazing, sentiment was neutral, confidence positive, right? So negative and all that. And accordingly, each sentence will get rendered, and it will give you the response accordingly. So the major objective over here, what we need to consider is that what is the runtime, what will be the containerized approach we are expecting, what type of solution you wanted to host in terms of cloud, and it will help you out in terms of making sure that activity whatever we are like capturing. So I made a call. So if you see here, there is a CPU usage, there is a number of like activity log also. If you see, you will get to know that what request, response, and other things basically perform, and you will get the idea about like complete service up and running. So if I have enabled detailed monitoring and options, you will be able to get to know that what is happening into the system. So here you will get to know that all the details and informations what we are like covering up, right? And it will help you out that all terms and conditions which you have accepted, there is a request response hit to this particular environment, and then you got the response also as an accuracy. So this way, at least you will be able to build and host your particular containerized approach with the environment, and you can have a kind of complete solution up and running, the AI solution up and running with your particular environment. Yeah. So let me know if you guys have any queries, questions so far. I'm happy to take those questions and probably like help you out with any Q&A you have. So I'll be able to give you insight regarding that, and it will really help you out with any doubt or any queries or questions you may have it in place. So yeah, let me know if you have any queries or questions. I hope you must have enjoyed the session, and that will be really helpful to you in terms of getting more insight towards containerized approach with AI services.
Thank you so much, Jigar. We don't have any questions at the moment. So, folks, if you have any further questions after this session, please feel free to reach out to Jigar. His social handles are already up on Meetup page. But thank you so much, Jigar, for hosting this session. And thank you all for joining us today. Please visit Microsoft Reactor website for more upcoming sessions. And also, we would appreciate your feedback on today's session as it will help us to curate future session. Please scan the QR code and do share your feedback. Today's event ID is 24906. Feel free to use the Learn module link. This will give you access to additional resources to take your learning further. Thank you all once again and enjoy the rest of your day.